Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Cedar Point History Series. Today, we're going to look at Cedar Point's coaster that transformed it from an amusement park to the best amusement park in the world, and the period of time when Cedar Point was scrambling to build the biggest, fastest, and tallest roller coasters in the world. This is the complete history of Cedar Point, Episode 4, The Coaster Wars. In 1989, Magnum XL200 debuted. Magnum XL200 was a new steel roller coaster built by Aerodynamics. Magnum XL200 was the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster, and it was the first roller coaster to exceed a height of 200 feet. This made it the first ever hypercoaster in the world, which was a new classification of roller coasters that was invented to classify roller coasters that were 200 feet or more in height. The ride was 205 feet tall with a 195-foot drop. The ride would travel 72 miles per hour and reach a 60-degree vertical angle. It utilized 5,106 feet of track. The coaster changed the world forever. It kicked off the Coaster Wars, which was a period of time when many huge parks were scrambling to build the world's tallest roller coasters, with the height record and other records being broken regularly. The roller coaster made a huge difference for Cedar Point's importance, and in 1990, Avalanche Run would be rethemed into a whole new ride. The ride was transformed into a new ride called Disaster Transport. It was fully enclosed and many special effects and new theming was added. However, in the following years, many of the special effects and theming were removed, leaving the ride almost completely in the dark. The following year, Cedar Point would make an even bigger project. This project would be so big that it would be the world's tallest and fastest wooden coaster. This coaster was called Mean Street. It was a din-built wooden coaster that had 65 miles per hour speed and a height of 161 feet. The roller coaster was very popular and would stay at Cedar Point for many years as a very popular wooden coaster. However, it did grow to be very rough in its later years. The next year, Cedar Point would construct a brand new section of the park called Challenge Park. Challenge Park was a free admission section of the park that included some upcharge attractions like Ripcord, a sky coaster, and some mini golf courses. It was built in between Hotel Breakers and Soak City. I could go into a whole nother video about Challenge Park, so I won't go super in detail on the history of it, but it was very successful until its closure. In 1993, Cedar Point would build yet another water ride called Snake River Falls. It was an 82-foot tall shoot-the-chutes ride that featured a 50-degree drop with a huge splash at the bottom of the ride. I've been on this ride, and I can tell you it's quite a lot of fun. Then, in 1994, Cedar Point would build yet another popular steel coaster. This would be Cedar Point's first ever coaster, built by Swiss manufacturers Bolliger and Mabillard. Bolliger and Mabillard would construct one of their famous inverted coasters called Raptor. Calypso was a flat ride that was removed to make room for Raptor, which was the first ever inverted roller coaster to feature a cobra roll. Raptor would feature 6 unique inversions, as well as over 3,000 feet of track, 137 feet of height, and it would travel at 57 miles per hour. Raptor was a very impressive coaster, but 2 years later, Cedar Point would open yet another Bollinger & Mabey Yard coaster. This coaster would be a stand-up coaster, the tallest, steepest, and fastest in the world. This roller coaster was called Mantis. It was originally supposed to be called Banshee, but it was changed after the public thought that name was too dark. The name would later be used for an inverted coaster at Kings Island. Mantis was 145 feet tall and just under 4,000 feet long. It was very successful for the park, as stand-up coasters were very popular at that time, and everybody wanted to get on the biggest one. In 1997, the park would introduce a new event called HalloWeekends. HalloWeekends was an event that would take place in September and October. It would feature the park's signature roller coasters, as well as many haunted houses and mazes, which can only be experienced during the event. You can still experience HalloWeekends today during that same time frame. In 1999, Cedar Point would debut a whole new themed area called Camp Snoopy. It would feature 8 Snoopy-themed attractions, including a new junior roller coaster called Woodstock Express. This themed area would also include retheming the Junior Gemini to Wilderness Run. Following year, 2000, Cedar Point would do something that no park had ever done before. They would introduce a brand new classification of coaster that was above Hypercoaster. This coaster consisted of coasters who had a height or drop of over 300 feet, the Giga Coaster. Cedar Point would build the world's first Giga Coaster called Millennium Force in 2000. It sat 310 feet above the ground and had a 300-foot drop and would reach speeds of up to 93 miles per hour. Millennium Force changed the world. There are still a limited number of Giga Coasters across the world, but each and every one of them are amazing rides. In 2002, Cedar Point would introduce the world's tallest inverted coaster, Wicked Twister. Wicked Twister was a launched impulse roller coaster, which was a sort of shuttle coaster. Riders go up and back down a twisted spike after a multi-pass launch. On typical impulse coasters, the riders would then go up a straight spike, but Wicked Twister introduced a second twisted spike for twisting on both ends. Twisters was very successful, and 2003 would see the construction of yet another record-breaking roller coaster. This a roller coaster that would yet again claim the records for height and speed. This roller coaster was built by Intamin, and it was called Top Thrill Dragster. Top Thrill Dragster was 420 feet high, making it the world's first strata coaster, a coaster over 400 feet. It would also reach a maximum speed of 120 miles per hour, making it the world's fastest coaster. However, its records would be broken 2 years later by Kingda Ka at Six Flags Great Adventure, which still holds the records. In 2005, Cedar Point would debut MaXair, which was the second Huss giant frisbee ride in the United States. It was built after the success of a similar ride, Delirium, at Kings Island. In 2006, Cedar Point would continue to build up their flat ride collection by building Skyhawk. Skyhawk was an S&S Screamin' Swing, which is basically a gigantic pneumatically powered playground swing. It has some very good airtime and forces and is a very enjoyable ride. And in 2007, Cedar Point would introduce a new roller coaster that would set Cedar Point on a different direction. This roller coaster would put an end to the coaster wars and make parks start to choose quality of rides over records and quantity. What was this new roller coaster? Watch the next episode to find out. Thanks for watching episode 4 of the Cedar Point video series. If you enjoy these videos, make sure to leave a like as that helps me out quite a bit with the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment about what you learned from the video and make sure to subscribe if you enjoy good coaster content just like this. As always, thanks for watching. ZZ Coasters, signing off.